Good morning, friends, and welcome. Welcome to a cold, chilly morning in California. Today's violin lesson will be on the Kreutzer Etude number 8. I mentioned it being a little cold and chilly. I just recorded the Etude for you, and the violin's a little bit tight, but we still do the best we can. And I want to just run through this etude with you, give you some ideas of what I find to be the difficulty and the real benefits of this etude. First of all, it's obviously an exercise in going across strings from G string to E string, back and up, and to control the bow strokes on, recognizing this string. There may be 2 strokes on the next string, 1 stroke, 2 strokes, and it's very complicated as we go through the piece. There's some fingering changes that I made. It's not a big piece on dynamics. If I took it slower, I could emphasize more dynamics. I mean, typical dynamic contrast that we would use is if the line goes up, make a crescendo. If the line comes down, make a diminuendo. This is not always the way it is, but in general, when you see music like this, if the line goes up, quite often it feels natural to make a crescendo. And of course, control the tempo. Don't let the tempo go ahead when you make a crescendo. So let's look through the piece. First, in the first measure, I notice that we start off. We're in first position. This is a very standard thing I always talk about with my students. I'm playing A, F sharp, and then there's the D sharp, and I play 4th finger D sharp. It's quite standard with young players. They'll play 3rd finger. It's okay, but to involve the 4th finger here keeps more stability in the left hand. So think about that. Playing that D sharp, that first D sharp with a 4th finger. In the third measure, I changed the fingering. The fingering they have in the music is, and it's okay. It's just a long shift from 1st to 4th position. I shifted to 3rd position and then to 4th position. So I kept it in groupings of 4. And it stayed in 4th position. That's all fine. Now, measure 5. They suggest in the part to play 2/4. I just found that the bowing difficulty was greater to play two notes on the G string, and then 1 on the D string, and then come 1 on the D and back over to the A string. I just found that a little bit confusing. And I find more comfortable to play 2. My least favorite fingering, pulling back the 1st finger and staying in 1st position. But in this case, I felt it was better for the bowing. Then I have 1 on the G, 2 on the D, 2 on the A, and then coming back. So that was my solution. If the 4th finger works for you, more power to you. There's a lot of 4th finger action in that measure. If you play that D sharp, that first D sharp with the 4th finger, and then you've got 2 others in the second half of the bars. That's a lot of 4th finger action. So anyhow, I use that fingering for measure 5 and 6, and even 7. In measure 8, when I came down, I found that the fourth finger was better for me there than the open. So I have 2, 2, and here's another. So I have 2 notes on one string, 2 notes down. So that's how I worked out that solution. In measure 9, I played G sharp, 3, A4, 2 notes on the same string. It was kind of easy then going across the string. You have to choose that for yourself. I'm the guy here just giving you ideas, different ways of doing things. I found starting in measure 10 that these 2-3 bars are fairly difficult to control across the string. Now notice there's another place right there, measure 10, the first D sharp, play fourth finger. You play third finger A, open, fourth finger D sharp. So when I recorded this, I was really conscious to give myself just a little bit of time. Just a little bit, but just let me settle going across the 2 strings. We're going from the E to the D. Now there's a case in point where I played a third finger G sharp on the second beat, and then I went ahead and played third finger D sharp 2 notes later. See, here's a fourth finger, third finger, and another third finger, because that fits right in the hand. And then there, and I even marked that last A natural. I put an extra little reminder natural on there because it would be easy to play A sharp there. A little bit of time getting across here. Remember, hold the second finger down when you go to the G sharp. Same thing here, F sharp. And there's a fourth finger right there. This is measure 12. Okay, so nothing is set in concrete here. If what you do works, fine, don't change it. But if you have any problems, these are some ideas for you. Okay, so we're going through measure 13. That's no problem. Measure 14. I found matter of fact, I changed all the fingerings that are in the music. They have all these, a fourth finger. Whoa, I find that very confusing, but for me, I play open, 4, 4. So in the second half of the bar, I'm playing fourth fingers all the way through. Just kind of, what I call squaring it up. That's a lot easier than doing fancy bowings using the open strings. I do the same thing, exactly same fingering in measure 16. Measure 17, I'm back to doing the 2, 1, 2 again, all the way through this etude. I'm doing this kind of a shape. At the end of the bar, bar 17, coming down. That's where I use the fourth finger. I don't play the 1 there. So I have, because that brings me back to a solid first position. Then the first finger E in the next bar is easy. So in measure 18, 4. Same thing in measure 20. Bring the 4, squaring that up. All right, so moving ahead, everything is all pretty good here. In measure 24, I want to remind you, in that one spot, do the bridge. And here, at the end of the bar, the last 2 eighth notes, I shift the third position. 2 notes earlier than they have, oh my goodness, that's complicated. What you'd have to do, if you did the shift their way, you would have to do the bridge twice. Here's the first bridge. A lot of action going down there in a hurry. My solution was bridge, shift the third position. Very much easier in my opinion. See, that's very, very secure. All right, moving ahead. Again, 25, there's difficulty. give yourself time crossing those two strings, you know, each time. Toward the, yeah, same thing on the last, and measure 27. That's a confusing one. I did use the open E string both times. Yeah, if I play the 4, you know, the 4 is pretty optional there. I mean, if I were to play it again, maybe I'd choose the 4, the second one. It's very, very square. I did okay with the open E string. Now measure 28. They suggest an octave 1/4 fingering. I was not comfortable with that fingering. It's obviously doable, but I extended back to the figured octave as a much more secure. And you know, we end up at the same measure 28, 28, 29. If you do in 28 the second note second, now we've got two identical fingerings in the two bars. Again, and I like to make things like that as duplicatable as possible. So that's what I suggested. You immediately go to second position in 28. Keep going along here. Measure 32. I did a different fingering. In the music, it suggested now this is not that difficult for young hands, let's say. F sharp, A. But for my hand, after playing this whole thing, I found that it was better to do a different fingering. So what I did is I was coming down in 31, second position, go to third position, D sharp. See, that puts no strain in my third and fourth fingers at all, but that fingering. Just got to remember to make the appropriate move. F sharp, A, C natural. Just see, that's it. Third finger forward, third finger back, third finger forward. But in this one instance, I found it was not a problem. As opposed to that one just didn't feel right to me. So if it fits your hand, it's fine. Stay in first position, no problem. Measure 33. There's the fourth finger again coming down. Okay, that's no problem. It's funny, when I was first reading the Etude through here at measure 35, 36, oh man, I was really, you know, oh, what is that? I didn't remember it. And then now as I've practiced it, it's not a biggie. So I think make sure you put a fourth finger on the last A sharp. Okay, continuing, measure 39. Oh yeah, that's just like the beginning with the fourth finger D sharp. That's no problem. Then at measure 41 and going forward, these are really interesting passages where we're doing sort of like a little hebiola, where we're playing still 6/8, but we're playing playing in 3. Go to second position at 43. This is tricky. That second one, to get it to really be clean. You know, obviously the ones where there's two notes on the string, those are the easy ones. It's the one that have one note, two notes, and another note. Those very in the heat of battle, when you're playing this piece all the way through and you hit this spot, suddenly it can be very confusing. Same thing. There it is. Yeah, that feels uncomfortable to me. In measure 44, we start in second. Now instead of staying in second position, we come down to the low first, two notes, trying to keep that as simple as possible for the bowing. The last beat, that's a little bit more difficult, but I decided not to go back to second. You could go back to second position in the end of 44. The problem then is, how are you going to solve the next measure? So I think it's more important to stay in the first position, deal with the bowing issues, and make measure 45 easier to approach. Now you notice all the way through there I was using fourth finger D sharp. There's a little extra detail. That's when you gotta be very careful of. And that's all fine. What's in the music? Oh, except I stay in third and come down at measure 49 back to first position. So this is third. Very complicated bowing. You could simplify that. Okay, now this passage, another one that when I first played it, I had to get used to this. I suggest in bar 49 that first A, they have open, I say play fourth finger. Another four. And now half position. You'll find that when you practice that will work nicely. Start open. 4. Another 4. 2. Now you're in half position. Extend out and move back to first position. Now this one, I would love to play a fourth finger to really make that emphasis, but in the heat of battle, the first finger seems to work better. It's hard for me to get a nice clean sound between the D sharp and E. See, I can do it as long as I'm calm, not too excited. So anyhow, you have your option there. If you could play that. See, it sounds very nice with the D sharp, but like I say, after playing the whole etude, your hand might be a little tired, your concentration not as intense as it might be. So I opted for the first finger. Now, this passage I looked at. It's so complicated with the open E string. Just make a nice clean shift from second finger G sharp to fourth position. It's a good practice for that shifting. And come right back down to first position. If you want to do the fancy fingering with the open, it's pretty complicated. I don't know what the point is. I mean, there are times in Paganini that we need to use open strings to make shifts, but I think in this piece it's a better fingering to go directly to fourth and then back to first. The last passage, starting measure 54, they've got a very fancy fingering. It could be done. I opted to stay in first position through 54 and then make the clean shift to fourth position in 55. Third, what position is that? That's, I guess, sixth position. Putting a first finger on the G sharp here. We cover all of this and then make one shift. 1, 2, 4. 1, 2, 4 G sharp. The way this is written, I have to tell you honestly, I hate this 8VA. I wish that whole measure were written out with the ledger lines, and then sure put the 8VA on the last note, the E. But this way it's so complicated. We have to do all this interpretation because we don't normally read these notes with an 8VA sign, when we'll normally read those with ledger lines. So, yeah, that'd be. It's much easier to read it without the ledger lines. All right, so I hope this helped you. Just some ideas on the technical aspects of this piece and the possible fingerings. And I'll be recording this piece with other bowings, and I'll discuss whatever the difficulties are. We'll probably have to change some fingerings if we do different bowings. So thank you so much for listening. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. And I hope this gives you more enjoyment of playing this piece. I've had quite a bit of fun playing it, just going over different possibilities, deciding what bowings I think are valuable. All right, thanks so much for listening. Have a great day.